Hello, Susan here again. I have a beautiful, elegant card that I want to share with you this time. And this card has been made using, you notice there's no stamping on the front even, but I use the Ornate Layers dies. And these dies come with a variety of different sizes of rectangle borders and a couple of insert pieces. So the ones that we're using today are this piece, this one, and this little one. Okay? I'm also going to use the Ornate Garden Designer Series paper. And these are the different patterns. It's kind of hard to see them all at once. This is the one that we're using today, an old olive, and it's got a beautiful foil embossed filigree. Got some darling daisies and a wallpaper type border pattern. This is one of my favorites with all these brightly colored flowers. And then on this, the flip side, you have a soft kind of a background look. Next one is daisies again, so fun and bright and springtimey feeling. And then on the flip side of that, you have a very elegant golden white. You can leave it like this, or you can add color using a sponge or a brayer, sponge dauber, or drag the pad on there. This is another one with the same pattern as the one we're using today, or similar at least. It's similar. It's not quite the same. This one's in mint macaron with the gold foiling. And in the back has these sweet tiny little flowers. And the last one is another gorgeous gold and white, that gold foil. This is the same pattern as this one, just without the color. So you can color individual flowers, you can sponge color it in random places, leave it plain, or you can use your brayer and kind of get a rainbow look on it. The opportunities are endless. This is a sweet little springtimey pattern. Kind of reminds me of little sundresses that my daughter wore when she was a little kid. Just very light and airy, like a little cotton sundress. That's what it makes me think of. Okay, we're going to use one stamp set today, and that is Woven Heirlooms. And this is a returning stamp set for you. And we are going to use just this little thinking of you in it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is fold our paper. It is cut 5.5 by 8.5 and then scored at 4 1/4. And you can see I'm just going to run my bone folder over because the flatter this sits, the easier it is to assemble my card. It's kind of hard to stick something down straight if your card's doing this. But if you can get it to lay down flat, it really, really helps. Okay, so the next piece we're going to use is Early Espresso, and this is 3 3/4 by 5, and I am just going to glue it down. Now, have you ever noticed when you cut your cardstock, there'll be one edge that's kind of up and raw, and the others are kind of slightly beveled under? The raw edge is the side that was down, away from the blade when it was trimming. But if you should ever have to flip it over, or in this case I have one side up, which means it was cut that way to begin with, just run your fingernails over it like that, and you can flatten it out really easily. Now I am using my liquid Tombow. It is my glue of choice because it holds extremely well, even in humid Missouri. And I want that to squeeze out, do we? And I get a lot of bang for my buck because it doesn't take a whole lot to make it stick really well. And if you have a decent amount of it under there, even the little bit that I had, you've got wiggle room where, oh, if I didn't get it quite straight, you can kind of move it around and get it in the right spot. Okay, so the next piece on my layer is this beautiful, beautiful frame. And that was cut with this die right here. So pretty. It's actually really gorgeous before you punch the pieces out too. Now I have discovered with this gold foil, if your glue is very thick on the back at all, you can see the ridges through. In this case, it's not really going to matter because we're going to kind of cover the center of that. But if I needed that to be exposed, I wouldn't be too terribly happy if it had ridges. Actually, that's how this card kind of came into being, because I had glued it down intending to put something really tiny here in the middle, and I could see all my glue edges. And I'm like, that's a mess, but I didn't really want to try to rip it apart and start over. And I had some scraps laying on the table. So I took this scrap out of curiosity to see how it looked and cut it out using this die. And this gives me this sweet, sweet little circle border all the way around. Tiny little circles. And when I laid it on here, I thought, hey, I can turn that into a card, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to actually glue that down. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge where my little border is. And I'm just going to give it a little tiny squiggle in the middle. Normally I don't do the middle, but because I'm gluing it down onto foil and I'm not going all the way to the edge, I do want to make sure it's going to stick. Now I don't want my little circles to line up perfectly in this circles, the one underneath it, because if it's perfect in one, it's going to be really off on the other. So I'm just kind of going halfway in between is what I'm doing here. All right, give that a press, and that should be good to go. All right, our next layer is going to be another piece of early espresso and some gold. The early espresso is 1.5 by 2 3/4, and the gold is 1 1/4 by 2.5. Oh, and this piece was 5.5 by a little more than 2.5, I think. If you cut it right at 2.5, I think it sliced off. I did one and it kind of cut off my edges. So just give it a little extra border. When you're doing something like that and you want to know what size, the easiest way is to just lay your die on your paper cutter and see about how wide that measures. And give yourself maybe 1/8 of an inch wiggle room either way. That way, if it slips a little, you still don't run off the edge. Okay, so now I'm going to use my Big Shot for this one. And this is designed to cut all the way out. But I looked at it before I did the cutting, or the poking out, and realized that is gorgeous, just as an embossed image. And I know I do have a mat here somewhere that I can use to keep it from cutting and just making an embossed image. I just haven't actually gone to find it yet. But when I cut out the other detail pieces, I used the precision plate to get a better cut and multiple passes through. I'm just using the regular plates here, and I'm only going to do one pass through, and we're going to see what we get. There went the brush on the floor. Okay, so ideally, I don't want it all to pop out. So I'm going to try to oh shoot, more of it came out than I wanted. Well, that stinks. So if it comes out on one spot, I have to poke it out on the other one so it's balanced. But my plan was for that not to come out. And this doesn't usually cut out well. So, kind of botched that plan, didn't it? Shoot. Well, I'm not too happy with that theory, because I have to poke these out now. And I have to poke all these out. And those. I can leave the center maybe. So each card's going to be a little different. I'm not quite sure how I got such a good image the first time where all those pieces didn't cut out. Oh, darn it. They're all going to fall out for me now. We're not going to do what I wanted at all. Well, so the card doesn't always turn out the way you plan. I like to say the card sort of builds itself. I can have all the plans in the world and I start, but something can change along the way and make it different. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're all falling out nice the way I don't want them to. I'm going to see if I can keep the one in the very middle intact. I'm going to try anyway. Might not work. but we're going to give it a shot. I've got a little straight piece here. Okay. But it is a gorgeous die. And it is beautiful, either cut out or, you know, kept intact. I need to find that mat that I have that, and I can't remember what it's called, but it gives you the chance to take your dies and you make them actually like embossing folders instead of just dies. So now I'm going to go ahead and put liquid glue here. Got a little fuzz there popping out. This is my pokey tool. It's actually called the Take Your Pick tool, but it's really great for poking little pieces out, picking up little rhinestones. All right, I need my glue to be really nice and thin so that it doesn't show on the other side that I have little ridges of glue. Another way to do this would be to pour a little bit of glue into an empty button container and take one of our Stampin' sponges and just tap it in there and get just a little bit of glue on there. All right, I'm hoping this is gonna be enough to stick. And then we're gonna put it on like so. See, it's pretty. I mean, it's designed to be cut all the way out, but I just thought when I was looking at it, wow, wouldn't that be gorgeous if it was just embossed? Because it's a deep, beautiful embossing. So I did manage to keep the center intact, and I have a couple different versions here. So this version, I lost the little petals here and here, but I kept most of the design intact. And this one looks like was pretty similar. I got most of it, but not all. Not sure where my original is that I made. But, okay, moving on. So now I'm just going to take some dimensionals and I'm going to pop this baby up. And it doesn't really matter. It's kind of your choice where you want to place them. I do want to make really sure that I don't get any saggies, so I tend to be generous with them. And you'll notice I'm kind of poking them. If you push your fingernail down in the middle, that helps make it a little easier to get those backings off sometimes. Okay, a little piece of cat fur in there to go. Yay! All right. And a little bit of glue on here. That is kind of a problem. If you get glue on this gold foil, it's really, really difficult to get off. You can take a little alcohol wipe if you're very gentle and get it off, but if you get the alcohol wipe on the cardstock, it kind of ruins it. So you have to be careful. Okay, so that's going to stick there in the middle then. And sometimes you can just take your finger and kind of rub and get it clean, because that's just a tiny little bit there. And see, I can just polish it right off. Okay, so I have that, and then I'm going to make the little bow. A lot of people are very bow challenged. I know I am. And I found it so difficult to figure out, well, how in the world did people make those beautiful bows? And I have finally decided, keep it on the spool. You waste less ribbon. Just do a single loop and around, just like you're tying your shoe. Just like that. And then you can tighten to get it whatever size you want. Don't pull too tight or you lose that pretty knot in the middle. And then it's just a little bump, and then it's just not really a pretty bow anymore. But you can kind of piddle and adjust until you're happy with the size of your bow. All right. Now these are what I call my ribbon scissors. They are long since retired craft scissors from the catalog, but they're nice and sharp like a sewing scissors. So I reserve them just for cutting ribbon, and they are a no-no for paper. My paper snips are fabulous on paper, and I have one that will cut ribbon nicely. Most of them tend to shred it though, so I kind of avoid using it on ribbon. All right, I'm going to put this guy here, and I'm going to put him close enough up here that he kind of, the loops kind of overlap up there. Okay. like that. All right, now, I was all done with this card originally, and I was like, okay, this is all I'm doing. But as I looked at it, I thought, you know, a little bit of bling. Something's missing. So I decided to add some little bits of bling here. And I have a second package of these, and for the life of me, I can't find them. I just do not know where they went. Not even in the least. So this one's going to be kind of a mixture, because I ran out of the tiny ones, which it doesn't want to come up at all, the last one. Okay, I'm going to put it there. And then I'm going to kind of do the opposite on this side. Normally I would always say do odd numbers. You know, don't do 6, but make sure you have 3 or 5 or 7. So I'm just going to dress this one up. I'm just going to put a really big one here. They're kind of, I meant for them to be opposite. They're not really, are they? All right, let's change that up just a little bit. The nice part is when you're working with all of these rhinestone type things, as long as you don't push down hard, you can pick them up and reposition them. You don't want to touch them with your finger like I just did any more than necessary. But doing this now, I have a nice, still kind of an unevenness to my pattern. All right, so now they're stuck. So there's the front of my card, and that is a beautiful, elegant card. You could make it for an anniversary or a birthday or a wedding or anything you like. Right now, I am leaning towards the encouragement, the thinking of you, the hey friend, how's it going kind of card right now. I'm going to just double check this because I kind of got a feeling it's not quite straight. Just a smidgen downhill. Okay, so then for my inside, I like to do something on the inside that ties in with the outside of the card. And usually the go-to is white or very vanilla. But I decided, look how harsh that would be if I did that. That just did not go with the whole theme of my card. So I decided I was just going to put another old olive piece in and then border it with this early espresso piece. Because it needed a little something from the front, I used this cute little border die here and just ran it through the old olive piece. Now, a lot of people would say, well, what's wrong with just stamping on what's in there? Nothing, but I don't particularly care to do that. A couple of reasons. First of all, I think my card looks a lot classier. I've got this elegant outside with multiple layers and scroll work and everything, and then inside just, there's words. I just think that cheapens my gorgeous card that you see on the outside. Also, the front's really heavy with all these layers. Well, the back's kind of flimsy if that's the only thing. So it may kind of do that on you. That's a possibility. And there was a third reason. Well, oh, I know. The biggest, most important reason. If I stamp on this and mess it up, it's messed up. And I'm going to have to put a layer on top of it anyway. But if I mess this piece up, it's a lot easier to cut another piece and just stick it in there. Okay, so I am going to ink up Thinking of You with my early espresso ink pad. And I always use my grid paper when I stamp. It is just critical to me for lining things up and making sure my world is straight. Okay, so I'm going to try to shoot this. I like to stamp just slightly above the middle. And I'm going to angle that up just a smidgen because it wasn't quite straight. Pretty good. Could have been a little lower, but I'll take it. It looks like a beautiful script, and oh nice, I just got it all over things. Well, normally I will take my ink or my stamp and I will stamp it off on scrap paper before I try to clean it with my Stampin' Chamois. Just keeps it from getting gummed up with ink so quickly. Just keeps things a little cleaner. Okay, so now we just need a little glue here. And again, I just need the outside edges. If you use a lot of glue around the middle, for starters, you're wasting your money because you don't need that much. And it can sometimes leave ridges that you can actually see. If you're using any kind of a tape runner on Very Vanilla or Whisper White, it almost always shows through. So you always want to kind of stick to the border, and then you will have less visibility of any tape underneath. Okay, and as you noticed, I put some little dabs in there. I got a couple in here that I didn't want, but I'm going to try to get those out of there. But the edges of these little hearts, the inside of them, had been kind of poking up every time I was using them. So I wanted it to just kind of lay down in there. All right, and then it goes on the inside. And then we are nearing the end of our card. Now, like I said, this was the Ornate Layers dies and the Ornate Garden Specialty Designer Series paper. This is all a part of the Ornate Garden Suite, which is going to be coming out in the new catalog, premiering in June. But you have a special pre-order option now, and you can purchase it and get it and play with it ahead of time, because I guarantee when you see that new catalog, you're going to be all excited about so many things, and it's kind of fun to have this to go ahead and do your spring cards with. Okay? What do you think? I like it. I hope I'm hearing lots of yays out there. We love it. We love it. Please like the video. Subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I am just starting out with these videos, so any kind of positive, constructive criticism is always nice. Have a great day, take care of yourself, and send someone a card today. Send someone a smile. Bye.